Hello, welcome to the Tour de Taiwan, the 10th edition of this important UCI Asia Tour 2.1 level race. We've got 119 bike riders representing 19 teams that are getting set to do battle on the first of 5 stages. Taiwan, of course, the island off the east of China, is, for many people, the very center of the world of cycling. Massive amount of production of bikes in this part of the world, and some pretty hot bike racing as well. And we've got stage 1, which is the shortest stage of the week, 83.2 kilometers, a total of 10 laps of 10.4 kilometers, absolutely pan flat. Few little roundabouts to be negotiated along the way, but not particularly technical. And that's just going to tell you what the riders face today. No climbs at all, alone of any significance. This one is one for the Flat Earth Society riders. A couple of intermediate sprints, indeed 3 along the way. Start of laps 3, 5 and 7. That will offer bonus seconds and bonus points. And it was the VIPs that led the riders out through the neutralised section. Worth taking note of that little cobbled point that takes the riders close to the end of the lap and could prove critical. All together in the early stages, and then eventually the breakaway group manages to establish itself. The early feeling out process in the early moments of an important stage race, and eventually we see the first attacks coming. Simon Belot, the Team Illuminator rider, decides to try his luck. Xiao Hassanlu of the Chinese Taipei national team joins him, and they manage to open up a narrow but significant advantage. It's enough for the peloton to just have a look at those two riders and be satisfied that they're not perhaps likely to have the strength to hold off the bunch, but that's not going to prevent them from trying. And it's certainly a powerhouse display from Liu here, from the Chinese Taipei national squad, the 23-year-old on the front, the altogether better known rider, but better known to viewers from European racing. Simon Belot sitting behind here in the dark jersey. Belot going for the early sprints, trying to take what points he can. Looks as if we're going to be joined by a third rider. Indeed, it's Mario Vot of the Team Sapporo cycling team that joins the lead group, and this trio working well together ahead of the first of 3 sprints along the way for the early break. It's Belot that keeps a cautious and watchful eye as Vogt manages to get up for second, and Liu third across the line, but safely in that group. Behind the bunch, well, it's stretched thin. It's the William Trestina squad, one of several top-level European teams. Sabon as well, the Belgian team, just lined up in their red jerseys behind, and William Trestina want to try and bring this one down to a sprint if they possibly can. They've got plenty of options. And there's confirmation. Leonard Tugel's taking the points from the bunch behind, but really just tracking these riders up front, with Belot getting the first blood ahead of Vogt. Trio up front, hang on grimly. The wind is a bit of a factor. You can see the way the riders are spread and how they're changing, but well, it's unlikely to play much of a factor in the final destination of honours. A minute and a half the advantage for the 3 leaders out front, so it's a relatively short leash that the peloton are giving them, and the peloton certainly trucking along at a pretty impressive rate of knots as they try to keep these riders out front honest. The Memel CCN Pro Cycling team trying to put their shoulders to the wheel. Lots of teams trying to show willing and show that they have the right to contest the final sprint. Meanwhile, a couple of other sprints to come before we get to that point. Second sprint of the day coming along. Vogt on this occasion getting the second sprint just ahead of Belot, and not really contesting it. Xiao Swan Liu, the 23-year-old, 5th in his national road race championships. Only rides with the Ljubljana squads, and his 5th year on the team indeed. The Ljubljana Gusto team, well known. It's had various different names over the years, but it's the destination for Liu. Robert Orr taking the points from the bunch, but it was Vogt that got up. to take the intermediate points and bonus seconds along with that as well towards the overall honours. It's a large and interested crowd out in this Taipei city, the capital of Chinese Taipei. Bunch 112 riders it was that took to the start line. Down to the final 4 laps, the pace is really starting to ramp up. And up front, these riders, well, they see the bunch and they'll be able to calculate just how much of their advantage they continue to retain, and it's considerably truncated, isn't it? It's quite a bit less than it was, down to just over half a minute. Meanwhile, those riders at the back of the bunch just trying to take a breather as best they can at this moment. Park from the Korean national team. The squad will want to get involved. They've got a very useful sprinter in Junyoung So. Liu continues to push on this towards the back end of the lap with the tram rails and the cobbles playing their role. Liu's going to try and contest this one, but he hasn't quite got the firepower to get in amongst Pello and Vogt on this occasion. So it's Vogt that scores the lion's share of the points from the intermediate sprint. The third one going to him as the Willier Trestina squad lined out, putting their entire team on the front. Big hopes that they can come up with a decent result. Perhaps Paccioni could do a job for the Willier Trestina squad from Italy. There's confirmation of the third sprint of the day, with Vogt getting it from Pello and Liu. Flores from the bunch scoring some useful points, but not his primary objective now. Pello racing solo. Pello has gone clear on his own, and his erstwhile breakaway companions Mario Vogt and Xiao Xian Liu are back in the fold, back into the main body of the peloton. They've been absorbed. Just one rider continues to resist the massed ranks of Willier Trestina. The CCN squad as well have ambition. Robert Orr continuing to do plenty of donkey work and very impressive leg work indeed. Now we start to see a little bit of animation from the group behind. Local rider Chen from the RTS racing team trying to retain Simon Pello. Jimmy Jansen's there as well. Jansen's from the Belgian Sibyl Sabon squad. Chen can't follow that kind of level of power that Jansen's is able to produce. He's really hanging out of a big gear there, but just dangling off the front of the bunch. Still Pello resists. It's been a fine effort from the ex-Siam cycling man, the 25-year-old Swiss rider. Will be the last man standing, and he's shortly to be joined by Jimmy Janssens. And the peloton not giving them too much advantage. Pello still with plenty of fight. The French spreading wide now. Got the United Healthcare squad trying to make an appearance on the front. So too indeed the Korean national team and the Japanese national team. This is on the front in the red and white colours and into the closing stages, and it's all winding up for a big sprint with the Japanese national squad trying to set up Okaimoto. Junyoung So of the Korean squad in the mix as well, as the team's jockeying for position into the final few turns. And it's getting pretty physical in there as riders try to hang on like grim death for everything that they possibly can, but hanging on is Okamoto, who's going to lead it out and lead it to the line, and that was a superbly converted job by the Japanese national team. Stayed to the fore in the final knockings, and well, he pumps the front wheel down, and Hayato Okamoto of the Japanese national team can celebrate a victory over Korea's Junyoung So of South Korea. Raymond Crater getting up for third. He'll be well known to European fans. Onodera from the Japanese national squad makes it 2 from that squad in the top 4. Okamoto He will, of course, lead and take the yellow jersey into stage 2 ahead of Vogt, Pello, Sio, Crater, and the rest. Well, very happy to join this race and to win. I'm good in the sprint. Well, it will be a difficult climb for me tomorrow, but I will try my best. So Okamoto gets the victory, and with it the first yellow jersey of the week. Tomorrow's second stage is the Queen stage, and it's going to be particularly challenging. The sights and sounds before the start of this race, and now we're up and running. Early classifications, with the exception of course of the King of the Mountains, have been established. So that's it, Tour of Taiwan, stage 1 has been completed. It's gone the way of Hayato Okamoto, out of Junyong So and Raymond Crater. Tomorrow's stage at Taiyang City with 3 climbs to the Cat 1 finish. That will complete it. It will decide, for many people, give us a great indication of who's going to take overall honours of Tour of Taiwan.